Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for all your comments and questions. Today, I would like to speak about the best relationship. What is the best relationship? And so this video is kind of dedicated to the realization of the self and establishing the relationship with oneself first. So the answer to this question is that the best relationship is with oneself. The problem arises that we don't know how to establish this relationship with ourselves. We don't have a reference point because from the start, from the birth, we live in a dispersed mode, or we're pushed in that dispersed mode where our consciousness is pushed to constantly interact with the projected reality, with people, with the system, and acquire certain, skills, behavioral patterns, follow certain rules that make us a part of the society. The society itself does not promote a healthy relationship modality. So, and it is the fact that we cannot establish relationships, good relationships, fruitful relationships, fulfilling relationships with others, for one simple reason, that we are not capable of establishing this relationship with ourselves. So we develop a very unhealthy interaction relationship with the projected reality, which is called codependency. And because of this codependency, because of a need for constant reflection, validation, and feedback, we get tangled with the reality in the most unhealthy way. And once we're tangled with that reality, when we actually want to realize ourselves, to gain spiritual knowledge, we don't know how to do this. When we want to establish healthy relationships with others, we fail for most part, or we have to spend a great deal of time failing and getting into new relationships until we understand that the best and the most important relationship for now and forever is with yourself. So in order to establish a relationship with yourself, you have to break that modality, that behavioral pattern that you've established in, which is constantly looking outwards, constantly looking for an emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical supply in the external reality. So the main point is to focus within and to awaken. You cannot establish a relationship with yourself without that awakening. And the moment of awakening is when your consciousness simply focuses within. You finally, instead of being in that dispersed, externally projected mode, you somehow withdraw. And you are within yourself, within your body. You learn to perceive your existence in the body. And this experience cannot be described in words. It's either there or it's not. And when we speak in terms of yoga, in terms of spirituality, in terms of self-realization, it starts from the same point. You are to turn within. You are to experience absorption. That absorption is yoga. That equanimity is yoga. That first yoga that brings you into the direct perception of your being beyond your acquired understanding of self or your body or the reality. When you start the journey, or before you start the journey, you think that spirituality is outside of you, that spiritual knowledge is outside of you, that if you practice this and that, if you twist your body, if you breathe this way and that way, if you read some books, if you do this and that, mix these herbs with those herbs, you're going to attain spiritual knowledge. In reality, this means that your mind is immature, spiritually immature, and incapable to grasp the essence. The essence has to be perceived first and acknowledged for being the essence. And you can only experience that when your mind is totally within. We do have these glimpses of absorption from time to time when we are, when you just sit and look at the window, or you're for a moment kind of dissociated from the external reality. But these moments don't last long and usually are not acknowledged but by our active consciousness. So when you awakened, it means that you've actually acknowledged this moment of absorption. In yoga, it's called amanaska, the no mind. There are no thoughts and no emotions at that moment. That's the moment of equanimity, the tranquility. And the deeper you go into it, the more blissful and fulfilling this moment becomes. It extends into the being, not just a glimpse, not just a moment, but a being. And through that being, you learn to refine yourself, because all the rest of you and your, living experience is not that fulfilling. It's exhausting. It's draining, because you clearly now see the awakened state, meaning you are aware of that fulfilling, wholesome being, and you now clearly recognize that which is not wholesome, which drains you, which pulls you outside of that absorption. Now, the point of spiritual evolution is not just to experience the awakened state, but to align, to integrate that state with the body, so that you can actually attend to your chores and duties and do something externally, but through the state of absorption, which is heightened awareness, expanded awareness, where you perceive not only yourself now, and you already have established then the relationship with yourself. You're aware of yourself, of your needs, of your wants. But you're also aware of the fact that you are in your natural state, thoughtless and emotionless, but you still have those currents which you can entertain, maybe the creative currents which you can still express, through which you can still operate in the external reality. And so you do it in an aligned way, in a wise way. Now you also learn to observe the reality and people through that absorbed state. So you perceive them much deeper. You perceive their waves, their emotions, their fluctuations, their thought patterns. And it's important to understand that when you create a relationship with yourself, you create stronger boundaries. And these boundaries are energetic. You start respecting yourself more. And because of that respect, you do not allow certain transmission, information, energy to enter your personal boundaries, your personal space. This way, your personal or your own awareness expands, its frequency heightens, and it becomes a natural protective barrier for your spiritual being, energy being, as well as your physical being, which reflects on your choice of lifestyle, diet, and also it promotes your immunity naturally. Because if you've seen my previous videos on immunity and health, I've clearly stated that our immunity is first of all an energetic barrier. The stronger the radiation, the spiritual radiation, the stronger the immunity and the spiritual energetic barrier, and more balanced and healthy you are on whichever level, emotional, mental, and physical. And so balance can only be preserved when you stop draining yourself. To stop draining means to establish proper, loving relationship with your being. Your being is spiritual being, higher consciousness being. So even though you still perhaps entertain certain ideas and thoughts from time to time, they have no such capacity to drain you any longer, because you know how to withdraw within and again cultivate yourself. You cannot refine or cultivate yourself without having this establishment within and being in the body. You cannot evolve spiritually if you haven't established this perfect relationship with yourself. Once you have this gravity to you, that gravity, that status is the gravity, the spiritual status. then you can understand who you could be with, in which distance, to which proximity, and with which distance you establish a relationship with others, how closely you allow these people according to your conscious understanding, how refined they are, what they contribute to you or what you're able to contribute to them. Is there any equal give and take? You clearly see that. In 10 seconds, you understand who is for you and who is not. And it doesn't mean that you just need to sort out people as sorting out, okay, it's black, it's white. Nothing is black and white. You just have to understand the capacity of people you are dealing with. And you can only understand that when you establish perfect relationship with yourself, because the deeper you know yourself, the deeper you see others within your scope of awareness and your proximity. So all relationships, all types of relationship can work on the right distance. You give people only to that degree which you see they're able to absorb. You transmit them with that intensity they're able to absorb in a balanced state so it doesn't bounce back to you. That's the quality of a leader, a quality of a teacher, a quality of a healer. To understand, first of all, who you are dealing with. You cannot heal others if you are not healed yourself. You cannot teach others if you haven't learned yourself. So you have to, first of all, teach, heal, and balance yourself so that you can gain gravity. You know, in ancient times, or in Asia, these kind of beings were called gurus. Gurus because they gained that gravitational pull, because that gravity came from within, because they gravitated towards their own being, their self-realization. They understood who they are. That's where they became natural masters without proclaiming themselves. People gravitated towards them as well because they were able to give the solution. The solution was given or was easily found by these people because they've walked the path, they've realized, they walked the talk, they've understood the path, they've realized, they walked it themselves, they experienced what others have experienced or are experiencing right now. And so they know. This knowledge does not come from books. This knowledge is from within. And if we really want to learn from within, understand something, and also establish proper relationships with others, we have to really perceive that wholesomeness within us, ourselves, within us, and establish in it. One thing is to perceive in glimpses and bathe there and be in a meditative state, but then once you come out, you're again that reckless, imbalanced, misaligned person. The other thing is to be established, meaning to be the vessel of that frequency most of the time. Even while you are in an external projected mode, you're somewhat aligned with that higher awareness. So there is difference. And if you want to have great relationships, or at least have grace to experience good relationship with someone else outside of you, you are to first of all work on yourself and refine yourself and establish yourself in that higher frequency so that the quality of your relationships changes, so that people you choose also kind of according to your level of wisdom, to your level of self-respect and self-realization. If you say you're self-realized, but you're surrounded by a bunch of low-frequency people, and this low frequency it's not meant to judge people. The low frequency means people who gossip, people who cannot focus on themselves, people who constantly engage in, unhealthy interactions where they just drain themselves, emotionally vampirizing themselves. Then you should question yourself. Why do you allow this to happen in your life? I do understand that we all go through a process when we might encounter such people and allow them for a while in our space. But the further you go, the more you refine yourself, the more you understand who is there to stay and who's to go, and what's healthy and what's unhealthy. Unhealthy is also to hide away from people. Unhealthy is also to run away and avoid because you feel pain. No, when you feel pain, face it. Understand what invokes this pain. Do not run away. But at the same time, select people carefully. Understand the contribution. Understand the law of give and take, which has to be also in a balanced way. Otherwise, you'll always feel like something's wrong. Something is not fulfilling you because there's no equal give and take. Energetic contribution is not equal. Transmission is not positive. People can smile in your face, but their transmission is negative. So their shadows keep on haunting you. So be very careful when you establish relationships with others, especially when you haven't yet stabilized the relationship with yourself and you haven't yet really rooted and grounded yourself in that sense of I am. Because when you are grounded in it, you don't need validation or reflection from the outside. You simply know. How you know? It's a perception. It's a blissful, fulfilling being, equanimity, awareness, and there is absolutely no need even to validate yourself from the outside or to establish any relationships. In that case, you establish a relationship not on the basis of neediness or desires, but just if something comes, you entertain it. If it goes, you let it go. That's the wisdom of the ancients, and this is something to ponder. Thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, and share if you think it may benefit other people, and blessings.